Well, let's talk tech because one of the world's top smartphone games has been banned in China. It's called Plague Inc., hasn't it? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, Plague Inc. It's I didn't really know much about it, but I've got it running here on my iPad right now, and it's 8 years old. But Janie, this game simulates what it's like to have a pandemic, and so I got it out the other day and started the Black Plague in New Zealand, as you can see here. And what it does is you're working for the virus to propagate, to become greater around the world. And your ultimate aim is to sort of wipe out humanity. Now, it all sounds a bit dark, but it does teach great strategy and how infection rates happen, what the transmission process is. As you can see here from the Black Plague, was all starting from the fleas. And over time, your goal is to spread it as far as possible. And I've got to say, it's pretty intriguing. Even found a player here in the newsroom, so it's actually quite popular. But at the moment, it's really popular. And so in China, the reason they've banned it, well, apparently the game manufacturer said that it was due to some illegal aspects to the game in China. And as you can see, when you start up the demo, the first thing it says is infect China. So for some reason, they've banned it from the App Store.
It's fairly easy to understand why China might
be sensitive about it.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it is like, and it is. We do know their regime as well. Basically, there's the world's on the edge of something, or right in the middle of something pretty significant. So they're going to want to.
You see how the aircraft are flying. You can actually speed the game up and see how it affects the world. Now, the thing about this game is it's not just a silly game. The CDC in America have got the game developers in to talk about the game as well. So I think, Janie, I think we were talking off air before about, you know, is this worthy for kids? I can say that I think it has, you know, other than the aspect that you might think it's a bit dark, you know, wiping out people, but there are all sorts of games like that. What it's doing is teaching you how it spreads across borders and how, if it's too lethal, then the disease burns itself out. So it has to have that little mix of being just enough to kill a few people, but also being able to spread. And it's really interesting, that point of view. I don't know, would you recommend it for a child?
Well, it was interesting. We had a psychologist on yesterday talking about anxiety levels that have increased and, you know, exposing people too much to information. But I guess it's, you know, there's an element, isn't there, where you've got to learn about things and reality, and you can't hide away from stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually haven't seen the game before, but you're saying that it's been around for 8 years.
It is huge. It's 8 years old, 130 million users, and billions of times it's been played, and it's really big in China, like massively so. So I think it's disappointing for the people of China not being able to play the game.
It might be a bit smaller at the moment, obviously, with the ban.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, just moving on, the Olympics, they remain in doubt. But look,
can you imagine it being called off?
Well, they're saying it won't be postponed. They'd cancel it.
Yeah.
So I suppose if you cancel it, what do? You have to reschedule it.
Well, you just have to start it.
Or do you go again 4 years' time?
Yeah. Well, maybe they should do what they have in cricket, like a reserve day.
Well, they closed down all the schools the other day up until the end of March, I think it is.
Yeah, so I think it's that serious with the spread of the virus. One of the big things, though, is it's not just disappointing for athletes, it's disappointing for photographers. And you would have seen some of the great images that News Corp photographers have taken over the years. And I've done a story that you'll see later today with Phil Heard here. You can see with Stephen Solomon, our 400-metre champion. He's a 5-time Australian champion, I believe. And we're out the other day testing. Look at these shots. He's just a visionary, Phil. And he can change that into that. I mean, just amazing.
How is the pressure on a photographer? Because, I mean, it must be huge.
It is huge. You know, one of the things that Phil said to me is that he said he loves working with athletes because they train for 4 years, and as Steve says, he runs over 44 seconds. 4 years for 44 seconds. The photographer has to do the same thing. They have to prepare for that. And the good thing about him is that there's a new camera on the market, which we tested, the 1DX Mark III by Canon, and it makes it a lot easier, but it is huge pressure. I mean, imagine some of the shots, the iconic shots, if they didn't happen.
Oh, it's disappointing as well for everyone. Like, I mean, athletes that aren't, if the Olympics were called off, but people like Phil and others who are signposted to be going there, it's their grand final in a way. Like, rarely, every 4 years, you get the opportunity to get this type of photo.
you think about the 100 metres, you know, even things like Sally Pearson's gold in London, which Phil told me in detail about. If you don't get it right, then not only does the paper miss its mark, but we just don't have the memory from the time. You know, we had some photos that I sent through that from Phil, which are absolutely brilliant from his career, and it started digitally with one of these cameras. Yeah, I'm going to hold it up. This is the D2000. It cost $20,000. It came out in 1998, so it made its debut at the Commonwealth Games, but there's only 2 of them at News Limited at the time, so they had to fight about 2 megapixels.
1988, there was big Matilda out the front, out there in Brisbane.
So that little sensor there's 2 megapixels. So they had 2 of them at the Sydney Games, and you know, Phil took a couple of shots. They used to fight amongst each other to get this digital camera. Now fast forward to 20 years later, and this beast is the 1DX Mark III. Now, if you're a keen amateur photographer, Janie, I know you are, you might want to try this one out. But that is, I'll pass it over. That's $11,000. This one was $20,000 when it came out, and it's pretty much rubbish now. But that thing is incredible. And you can take... It's all about the... and what it does is, you know, what the game-changing thing is that you can track people that you nominate on the back of the screen, and that means the photographer is freed up to take better photos. So if I'm tracking you at the starting line, Tim walks in the way, even though he's walked in front of you, the camera knows when you appear again, you remain in focus. So for the photographer going to the Olympics, like Phil, it's absolutely key to have razor-sharp images when they shoot the athletes across the finish line, or the emotion of it.
We look forward to the story this afternoon.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really, really nice pictures too.
Good on you, Djuro.
All right, thanks, guys.